Do you feel like you
But I think they understand how I look at them and they don't try anymore.
really? Okay.
Write them down the day before and then it's better.
Okay, so you almost need to prepare for like social situations.
If they wouldn't talk to me but to each other,
Would you
it
want
will feel bad.
yeah, would you want them to talk to you?
Yes.
Hello everyone! Today we're having the topic why am I afraid of meeting new people? And this is a series of solutions to complex human behaviors with Samppa.
Hi.
So my name is Anastasia Kontinen and psychology is my hobby, and Samppa, he has his own channel also, visit it. He's enthusiastic with humans.
I like to study people and understand why we do what we do. Just on the record, none of us are professionals.
And we hope that we can broaden your mind on the different aspects and understand why people can experience different problems.
I hope we might enlighten your mind somehow. We'll see. You can tell us in the comments below.
So we received a letter. It says, I am afraid of unfamiliar people, badly manage social situations, and cannot communicate well. It makes me feel lonely. I cannot find friends, and the quality of life suffers because I do worse at work, and even casual operations like shopping, phone calls, and chatting are related to a strong fear. So, what do you think about this?
There's a few things that kind of came to my mind. There's obviously just general social anxiety. I mean, there is a thing called social anxiety disorder, which affects people in such a way that they experience high amounts of anxiety when in social situations and so forth. And there's a lot of things related to that. But other things such as like some form of autism, like you've got I think it's called the autism spectrum disorder, where people have differing amounts of autistic behavior or tendencies. They tend to experience this also.
Yeah, I also looked into social anxiety, and there are a few signs which I found. So there could be that you're always self-conscious, so you're fearing to be judged by people, and there is that you feel that anxiety feels out of hand, like it's irrational. It interferes with your performance. That's what this person mentioned, that he can't even work properly because of it, or do shopping. It affects your relationship, as he also mentioned that hard to find friends. What's interesting that they mentioned that it does not go away even with familiarity. So that's what we're going to have. We're going to call this person and we'll ask some questions. So this is what I want to ask this person, if that goes away with family and close friends. That they overanalyze everything, people who have this social anxiety, and avoid social situations, and even have physical symptoms. This is also what I'm really interested to ask, because there could be nausea, dizziness, lightheadedness, trembling and sweaty palms and shortness of breath. Yeah.
Something I also learned was about when people have an avoidant attachment style, for example, or is there a thing called an avoidant personality disorder? When things go to the extreme, I suppose you can call it a disorder, but obviously people have different we can be on some kind of a spectrum of okay, I experience anxiety, and I think with the avoidant style, what separates that from general social anxiety is this kind of a distrust towards people, that you have a really difficult time trusting other people, whereas it's someone who's just generally socially anxious don't necessarily have that kind of a distrust that an avoidant person would have. And I guess there's just general anxiety, because you can be anxious about a lot of things, and if it just happens to connect with social things, that might be it. Or just depression seems to have that in it as well. If you struggle with depression, you might develop some kind of social anxiety.
It creates this vicious cycle when person needs acceptance, but then because he's like too nervous to engage in the interactions, he starts avoiding and isolating, and then it ultimately brings him to feel even more need of this acceptance.
Yeah. It's really interesting to start digging to try to understand like where it comes from. Like what is it that sparks that anxiety? Is it a certain kind of thought? Is it some kind of a situation? And like what's the interpretation for that situation? And I feel like a lot of times it's just kind of these illogical or sometimes very logical stories in our heads. Like you said, like being really worried how other people see you, and if you kind of go into the core of that, it's you're kind of worried that people will reject you because there's something weird about you, which there might not be, but because you feel like there is, then you just kind of you become very careful with people. But at the same time, it's like we most of the time we're pretty safe because no one, like, this sounds horrible, but no one really cares
Yeah.
like enough to even consider those kind of things about you. If they don't like you, at the same time, like, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? What would you say?
Yeah, I agree that it makes me feel better when I remember that people don't actually care so much. It's kind of sad, but it helps.
They care, but they don't. Like, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like, at
They
the same
care about their own problems.
Yeah, yeah. And
They
it's
think
like,
about themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also what you mentioned about if maybe that happened before and triggered this fear. I think it's called anxious fear. And what I learned is that sometimes people who have this anxious fear, they have very hard time determining where is there's like a real danger and where they feel in danger. And so what happens very often that to the person who feeling in danger where there is no real danger is that they a long time ago had been put in a situation when he or she experienced strong fear, and now everything which is related to this situation brings this fear.
Yeah, I feel like as people, we always kind of like, we look at the outside world trying to look evidence for ourselves. Like, how do things work? What's my relationship to the outside world? And who am I? Like, there's also this kind of an almost an existential kind of a search going on. If you haven't established who you are, then you just look for evidence outside of how people react to you, and you easily take that as part of yourself. Okay, well, that explains who I am. But it's not always like that. Like, if you think of a child, some of the main fears that children have is to be abandoned, to be totally helpless, because children are helpless in a way.
Yeah, they are.
And I feel like we try to avoid that, but at the same time, because we have that fear, we almost see it like everywhere as well. So I feel like that requires then the mindful understanding of like, okay, I may feel like I'm gonna die, but I'm not. And then you just kind of have to make sense of that and start moving forward with that. But it takes a lot of practice. It's not very easy.
Being like self-conscious, like you understand your limitations and that you might get hurt, but you still anyways take the risk.
Yeah.
I was very interested in how like our brain functions when a person experiences social anxiety. And so what I learned that there is like 3 parts in the brain which associated with it, and one is called amygdala. And that is connected to the fear processing center. And then there is hippocampus, and it's associated with our memories. And then there is a prefrontal cortex, which allows us to think and behave rationally.
In a moment when your amygdala is like very activated, it's very difficult to actually think correctly, because it's like most of your brain activity from your prefrontal cortex. Cortex. It's so difficult. Prefrontal cortex is it's not so active. So obviously you're not going to be able to think straight.
Yeah.
And then you got to do something to calm down the amygdala, which is maybe take a few breaths. There's things you can do, but if you're blaming yourself for not being able to do things right when you're all in that panic mode. Well, don't, because like, don't even expect yourself to be able to all of a sudden snap back into very rational thinking. But possible,
patient.
and you can get better about it, and you
Yeah.
can get really good at it as well. But it does take practice.
Be patient with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I also noticed that being voluntarily and involuntarily exposed to the stress factor. So people who impose the stress like involuntarily, then the default system which works in them will be associated with like defense, aggression, or withdrawal. But when the stress is voluntarily taken, then person uses more like the psychophysiological system associated with approach and challenge and generally positive feelings.
Yeah.
So basically, when the challenge of social situation comes, if we accept it voluntarily with a mindset like accept the challenge, then there is more chance for us to experience positive feelings than negative.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like, it opens up space in your mind to be able to start overcoming that fear.
And the last topic which I wanted to mention before we have a call is my favorite topic, introverts. So
Right. Yeah, good point. Very good point.
it might be that the participant is just an introvert, and there is such a chemical which is in our brain called dopamine. And so what happens when we meet new people or take risks, that we feel that dopamine, and it's like boost of energy. And if for extroverts it makes them feel good, for introverts it's overstimulating. So that might be the reason. And I think we should move now to the call.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, there we go.
Hello.
Hello.
So we had a few questions for you related to the letter.
And I hope we will have answers, maybe. But we've been having a
Yeah.
good chat so far.
Yeah.
And we,
Okay.
and
So
we,
having fun?
yeah, we're having quite a lot of fun. And it's good to have you in the call right now. So we're actually really curious to talk to you. And what kind of social interactions are something that are kind of heavy to you?
That one that don't go well.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good point. And do you feel like then the ones that do go well, that those are more recharging and energizing?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a really good thing to know. How do you feel when, let's say, somebody approaches you and comes and talk to you? How does it feel?
That is I'm trying to avoid.
You just want to avoid. Do you feel like you do you feel like you get nervous? Do you feel like you
But I think they understand how I look at them and they don't try anymore.
Really? Okay. So do you feel like, are you afraid that they'll think you're weird, or they don't like you? What kind of things are you afraid of?
I don't know.
Huh? You said you don't know.
No, it's just difficult by itself.
Okay, so you just kind of have a reaction of fear when there's a
Yes.
social situation. Okay, stand. Do you ever challenge yourself to go and talk to people?
Yes.
When you challenge yourself to go and talk to other people, does it bring you positive feelings?
No.
No, okay.
Okay, so let's say you're talking to someone, you're face to face having a conversation. Do you feel like you have an idea of what they're thinking or feeling in the moment?
Rather not.
Okay, so it might be difficult for you to understand them. Let's say, you have a conversation and then they smile and let's say they laugh at something. Let's say, I don't know, maybe you say a joke and they laugh. How do you feel about that?
Who say joke?
Yeah, let's say you say a joke.
Okay.
Or is it easy? Is it easy for you to make jokes in social situations?
No.
Okay.
They need some time to make them.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you kind of need to feel relaxed in that situation.
Write them down the day before, and then it's better.
Okay, so you almost need to prepare for like social situations.
No, I say about jokes, not.
Okay, so that makes sense. What do you find difficult about shopping?
Talking to seller.
Okay.
Someone.
Are you nervous just being around? Let's say you're in a place where there's a lot of people, but you don't have to talk to anybody. Do you feel anxious in that situation?
A bit, not much.
Okay, so is most of the fear connected to like actual social interaction?
But it also feels a bit strange when many people don't talk to each other or something, but not much.
Do you want to say that again? I'm not sure if I understood. So are you saying that it feels strange to you if there's a lot of people, but no one's really talking to each other?
Yes.
Okay. Why does that feel weird to you?
I feel it's also a bit nervous.
Yeah. And is it better if you're in a place where there's a lot of people but everybody's talking to each other?
No.
Okay.
This is worse.
That's worse. So why would you feel like it's worse?
Because talking is more difficult than avoiding talking.
But let's say you don't have to. Let's say there's a space where there's a lot of people and everybody's talking to each other, but you don't have to talk to anybody.
Then it's strange.
Okay, yeah.
If they wouldn't talk to me but to each other,
Would you
it
want?
will feel bad.
Yeah. Would you want them to talk to you?
Yes.
Okay, so that's probably you don't want to feel lonely in that situation.
What about your family and friends? Do you feel fear when you're talking to them?
Shy.
Sad.
Shy.
Shy. Oh, okay, yeah,
Or
yeah.
shy, you feel shy talking. Okay, that's very good to know. Very interesting.
To family especially, friends are better.
Okay.
What about, do you have any physical symptoms?
Sometimes, yes. Shaking even.
Is there someone in your life with whom you don't really feel nervous talking to?
No.
No, so it's almost like it's everybody you feel nervous talking to.
Yes.
Do you fear like people will judge you somehow because you talk to them?
They do. I don't feel. I see it.
You think that they do?
Yes.
Okay. What makes you think that?
Can you not come to party because you do like that? For example, they say.
So they actually tell you that they don't want you around.
Or we don't give you work because of that.
Gotcha. Yeah. For example, if I'm applying for a job, and let's say they're trying to find someone who has certain capabilities, like to do the job, for example. Like, if I don't get the job, I can kind of look at it two ways. Let's say maybe, and I'm trying to understand, like, why did they not give me the job? Number one, maybe they just didn't think that I had the qualities as like, let's say I didn't have the proper skills to be able to function in that job. Or then it's easy to go the other way. It's like thinking that maybe I'm just a bad person. Like I'm as a person, I'm a really like no one wants me, or like they don't want me because I'm a bad person. But these are two different things. Can you tell the difference between these two things?
But it happens many times, and I have a lot of feedback about this already.
Yeah. What kind of feedback do they usually give you? Like, can you give me examples?
That I have good capabilities, but they don't like the social skills or something.
Gotcha. So they're more so pointing at your social skills rather than other
And they are
things.
not that much required at this work, but still they are too bad even for that. Like this is.
Gotcha. There's always like human value and to be considered. Unfortunately, not everybody wants to even kind of dive into that. But I think that's really important to remember. Like you are valuable as a human being, even though you have challenges in some ways.
So what is the question?
That was not a question. That was just a point. I don't know. I was just I had a lot of thoughts about that.
Thank you so much for this call. We really appreciate that you took time, and
We're going to continue the conversation with Anastasia, and we're going to figure out what kind of thoughts we come through that. And I hope you find some value in this. But hey, I really appreciate you opening up about this and then sharing your thoughts and feelings about it.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
That was an interesting phone call. I actually got a lot of questions that we didn't necessarily have a time to ask. Let's say normally people necessarily don't have that much struggle of learning social situations and social cues and so forth. But with our friend here, he seemed to struggle. At least that's what he said, that he might struggle understanding social cues or what other people are thinking and feeling in the moment when he's having a conversation with them. And again, not diagnosing anything, but I noticed that it's either lack of practice of social situations, or for example, like with some autistic people, they struggle. They don't have the capacity to always understand that, and that's why social situations are difficult. Again, not diagnosing. I have no idea if this is any sort of autism or anything like that. Like if I had that, like I would most certainly go and talk to a real professional who knows about this stuff and can actually diagnose if there's a fundamental issue in your brain about this, or if this is something that you just haven't learned in your life.
Now, when you mentioned about practice, going back to us discussing taking the stress voluntarily or involuntarily, for example, if we deal with mini stressful situations, that can be a solution to learn it as a habit, like little by little, start with very small.
I feel like, I hope this is not how it always is, but it tends to be where we want to like eradicate a problem totally. But most of the time, what ends up happening is that we find sufficient skills to be able to handle those kind of difficulties, so that they don't trouble our lives unnecessarily anymore. There's a few things that help. Number one is really practicing that kind of a mindful, like being aware what's going on in your mind. Like let's say you get anxious, you start paying attention that, okay, I'm anxious. What kind of thoughts does this spark? Am I gonna tell myself stories that, oh, I'm a bad person? And I think this friend of ours mentioned that, he gets feedback from others, that you don't get the job because of your poor social skills or so forth. It's really easy to start to believe that okay, I'm not enough. It's true, you have now been judged to not be enough for the job, but are you not enough as a person? No, that doesn't mean that. And also, does that mean that you're not enough to learn to become qualified? It doesn't mean that either. You can still potentially learn all those things, but in the moment, you don't get the job.
I wanted to add about it's a habit, like how we think also about ourselves and the way we think about other things. So if it's a habit, we can learn and change it. Do not just blindly believe your own thoughts.
And especially feelings. I feel like that's the biggest problem, where we feel a certain way, and we kind of take that as a sign of reality, and then you need to become aware that, okay, I'm feeling these things, but it's not what it seems, and then accepting that, and then that gives you a little bit of power to start moving towards the more rational ability and capability. So just basic, like like practical, basic mindfulness exercises, like let's say meditation, understanding to like tap into awareness. It sounds so like woo awareness, but no, that's real. It's like meditation is a really good practice.
You practice it. You can share your experience.
For sure, yeah. Like when I started first meditating, just a really quick story. I didn't think it was very useful, but I didn't realize, because I was thinking that, oh, it's supposed to solve my problems. Well, no, not in the moment. And it made me feel a little bit better in the moment, but it's more so the biggest thing that I understood is just learning to pay attention to my thoughts and my emotions, and not identifying with them, like not reacting with them.
And I guess it works the same way with fear. It's the main topic of this talk, the fear. So if you feel fear, then you just recognize it, but you don't have to act on it. You mentioned meditation, and one thing I also found is which can help is deep muscle relaxation. So when you tense and then relax the major muscles groups of your body.
Another thing, if you feel really nervous in social situations, you might just want to go and practice, like get into a safe social situation, maybe with a friend, and the only thing you really need to worry about is just you relaxing.
Yeah, thanks for sharing your experience again.
So many ideas and thoughts about this.
So we were talking with him and realized that there was not a particular situation which actually triggered the fear in all the social situations afterwards. But still, I wanted to talk more about like if this is the case with anyone who is watching this video.
Like being able to revisit the memory, but being able to do that in a relaxed state and in a more calm, in a self-assuring way.
So yeah, not taking it as a proof for future situations, but actually other way around, realizes this is just one separate situation which does not concern all the future situations.
Yeah, like I think it's important to just to allow yourself to be who you are, to accept that, and to offer yourself the kindness to realize that, okay, I'm actually, like, I'm good this way, like I'm all right. Like we were mentioning that, even though we have undesirable qualities or things like that, struggles, there's still so much more to us that's quite lovable, understandable, likable, and I think we always need to also like develop our own relationship to ourselves.
Our friend did not recognize himself as an introvert, but I guess a few thoughts just to add. If you feel like you're an introvert, there is an importance to spend time alone, and that will help you to feel better when you spend time with people. But I guess all introverts know that already.
Yeah, and good to remember, being an introvert is not like it's not a disorder of any kind.
Yeah.
Like it's just who you are, and that's fine.
I love introverts.
Yeah. Someone said really well. They said like comparing being an introvert and being like socially anxious. Like being an introvert is your way, but being socially anxious is in the way. That's a good thing to to separate those two things.
Wow, that's a cool quote.
Yeah. With these, if you're actually worried about you having some of these kind of struggles, and you want to look into it more, I would definitely suggest to go and talk to a mental health professional. But if you struggle, don't be afraid to consult someone who's a bit more knowledgeable and who's more professional in these things.
Yeah. And I just hope that we helped you to understand that there is many people who feel this way. That's why there is all those therapists and professionals and all those disorders and tendencies are already researched very well because they occur to so many people, and
Yeah.
it's important to keep in mind that it's just one of the ways and challenges of the life, and we all have them, but all in different things.
But it's good to remember. It's good to remember that you can always improve your situation in incremental degrees, but through time, it will get better.
So thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, consider subscribing because we will have many videos like that.
Oh, will we?
Many videos related to psychology, and also consider subscribing to his channel.
You can if you want to.
Please share your experiences with anxiety, social anxiety, and in the comments. And maybe tell how you can deal with it, how you manage it. Yeah.
And if you cured your social anxiety, I want to know.
So see you on the next video on Tuesday. Like always.
Yeah.
And bye bye.
Adios.
Welcome to the videos. This is
Is it already recording?
Yeah, it's already recording.
What?
The audio and the video. It's so nervous. Help me.
Hi, today we're having a video about why am I afraid of making.
Hello, in this week's video. Anastasia, we'll take it away, please. No.